Hey, this is JBugs and welcome to another episode of the Minecraft Bedrock Survival Guide. Today we're going to be looking at how you can get each type of wood in Minecraft and the best way to gather wood in general. The great thing about getting each type of wood is it's going to encourage you to explore the world. Make sure that whenever you find a new tree type, you get plenty of saplings so you can grow them yourself as well. The first tree we've come across is spruce. Spruce is going to be pretty common and grows in taiga and snowy biomes, so you'll be able to find spruce trees pretty much in any direction that you travel. Spruce is a mid to dark toned wood. It's probably one of the main woods I tend to build with, and it's easy to gather and I like the colour. Birch is again one of the more common woods, and it's found in the birch biomes. The bark doesn't make it the best wood to build with, but if you break it into planks, it's the lightest in colour. The wood makes the best signs in the game. If grown near a flower, there's also a chance a bee's nest will grow with it. Oak is the most common wood in the game, and if you're struggling to find it, then you must be living in the nether as it grows in almost every biome. Oak is another staple to build with, and the planks are probably middle of the range in colour. As you break the leaves, there's also a chance you can get apples, and again there's a chance for bees' nest if it's grown near a flower. To find dark oak wood, you'll probably need to find a roofed forest. Roofed forests tend to be easy to spot due to the dense canopy, which also makes them dangerous, as mobs can spawn in the day as well as at night. The dark oak trees have thicker trunks and can only grow in a 2x2. I make sure to gather plenty of saplings from dark oak trees, as you must have at least 4 to grow a tree, and if you're not lucky you won't get enough drops from a tree to grow a new one. Whilst you're visiting the roof forest, you'll also come across giant brown and red mushrooms which look pretty cool. Acacia trees will only grow in savanna biomes, which tend to be found near deserts. This is one of the harder woods to find, but it's also one of my favourites. The bark is grey in colour, whilst the planks are orange. You'll notice that these trees will grow in pretty irregular shapes, making them harder to farm. Jungle trees, unsurprisingly, will only grow in jungle biomes, which tend to be a bit rarer to find, although tend to be more expansive when you do find them. The sapling drop from jungle leaves are about 2.5% versus 5% for the other leaf types. Because of the size of the trees, it can be a good way to get wood quickly, but there's also branches that will come off the main trunk, which makes it a little bit harder to farm and why I tend to prefer spruce. The planks have a slightly red tinge to them. The 7th tree type is azalea. This has just been added to the game. Sadly, it doesn't have its own wood type. Its trunk is oak, but the leaves and saplings are amazing. Although it's been added to the game, it won't spawn naturally yet, so the only way to get it is by getting moss. I actually found it really challenging to find a block of moss. I started by getting some emeralds by killing a vindicator which was part of a patrol. I was then hoping to find a wandering trader that would sell me moss. Eventually I did, but it took a long time. When you do find wandering traders, there is also a chance that they'll sell you the other saplings, so if you're struggling to find any type of wood, this can actually be a nice workaround. It's just worth saying that it will cost you 5 emeralds per sapling, so it can work out quite expensive. The other way you can get moss at the moment is from shipwrecks. As you can see, I went into a lot of shipwrecks to find the moss blocks. There should be about a 42% chance of finding moss in a shipwreck chest, but I probably had to explore 5 to 10 wrecks to find it. Eventually we did manage to get ourselves some moss though, which is great, but it just shows there's no guarantees. On the plus side, I did find plenty of loot and treasure in the process, so I got myself a few hearts of the sea. Now, back to getting azalea. To get the azalea we'll need to farm the moss. To do this we'll build a platform out of stone, and then once we place the moss block on top of it we can bone meal this. This will spread the moss, generating more carpets and grass on top. We then farm this up with a hoe and rinse and repeat until we get the azalea saplings. There are going to be 2 types of saplings, flowering and non-flowering. Once we've got ourselves some of the azalea bushes, we can plant these and grow them with bone meal. The logs from azalea trees are only going to be oak at the moment like I mentioned, but hopefully it will get its own wood in the next update. When you do grow up azalea trees, you'll also see that the block that it grew on has now been converted to rooted dirt. Again, this is the only way you can get rooted dirt in the game, and it's quite an interesting texture, so it's sometimes nice to have this. I love the leaves that come from azalea trees. To gather leaves, you can either grab yourself some shears or a tool with silk touch. A hoe will be the best tool to use as it will instant mine the leaves. I'm using a fortune hoe to get plenty of saplings back. I just want to mention, if you go to the nether, you'll also find warped and crimson hyphae. Technically these aren't trees, and as I've not been to the nether yet, I'm not going to be talking about them today. Amazing. Now we've got the different saplings, let's talk about the mechanics of growing the trees. Oak trees, you'll need to place down the sapling. We can then speed up the growth with bone meal. Typically the trunk will grow straight up and be about 4 or 5 blocks tall. There is a chance that the tree will grow bigger, and if this happens you'll get branches coming out of the top of it. It can be good because you get more logs and leaves, but at the same time it makes harvesting much harder. If you want to stop this process, you can place a block 8 blocks above the sapling. This will prevent the tree from growing too tall. When I'm harvesting oak wood, I tend to do this. Birch again can be grown from a single sapling, and they tend to grow 5 to 7 blocks tall. There are taller variants in the wild, but you can't grow these yourself. Birch can be a nice and easy tree to harvest, but you're not going to be able to collect that much wood from it. Acacia will grow from a single sapling, but these won't grow straight up, they'll tend to have quite irregular patterns. You'll get branches in different directions from the tree, and they tend to curve off towards the top. Spruce trees are really interesting. They can grow from a single sapling and tend to have various amounts of foliage. If you plant the spruce in a 2x2 though, it can grow much bigger, up to 31 blocks tall. This is my favourite way to get wood. The other interesting thing about 2x2 spruce is when they grow they'll turn the dirt at their base into podzol, so this actually allows you to harvest up podzol if you want it for anything. It will convert the dirt up to 6 blocks away. Dark oak trees will only grow when you place the saplings in a 2x2. The trunk will be 2x2 at the base, but may be thicker the further up it goes. It's worthwhile using fortune on the leaves to make sure you get enough saplings to regrow the tree. Jungle trees can grow from one sapling or by a 2x2. Again, if you grow the 2x2, it can grow up to 31 blocks. The only difference with spruce and jungle is jungle can have branches towards the top, which makes it a little bit harder to harvest. The leaves will tend to be towards the top of the tree, and as mentioned, they also have a lower drop rate than the other leaf types. We've already chatted through the mechanic of growing azalea, so I'm not going to go through that again in any depth. Before we get into farming the wood, I just wanted to show off the different wood types. We have the dirt blocks at the bottom, with the podzol for spruce and the rooted dirt for azalea. The saplings are then placed on these at the back, with the logs behind this, strip logs on top of that, and planks on top of that again. As you can see, the birch are on the left, and that's the lightest colour wood. This then moves through oak, spruce, and then dark oak. Jungle have a little red tinge, and acacia planks will be orange. The leaf blocks all have different textures, and it's worth saying the leaves will change colour depending on which biome you're in. When it comes to logs, whilst you can mine these by left clicking, you'll be able to strip the bark off the log by right clicking them with an axe. Where the logs will only have bark on the sides, if you combine 4 of these you will get a wood block back instead, which will have bark on every side. The next thing we're going to look at is the process I use for manually growing trees. I'll typically grow the 2x2 spruce, so to stop the podzol from spreading, I'll build a platform from scaffolding about 8 blocks above the ground. With a 3x3 platform in the centre, I will then place 2x2s of dirt on each of the corners. The reason I leave the 3x3 in the centre is so that I can use scaffolding to get to the tops of the trees easily. The trees will also need a little bit of space to grow though, which is why I want a block on either side of the scaffolding. Trees will also need light to grow, so I'm just going to place down some torches as well. Later on, I also decided to increase the number of spaces I had to grow trees, so I placed in another couple of 2x2s, so actually I ended up with 12, 3 on each corner. Next, it's just a matter of growing the trees, climbing the scaffolding to the top, and then mining down with an axe. You want a decent axe with efficiency 5. If you do have a beacon, this will allow you to insta-mine the wood, which is enormously helpful. can see in no time at all we've gathered ourselves up a double chest of wood. Next episode we'll be looking at exactly how we're going to be using this. That's it for today. Hopefully this has helped with giving you some tips on how to gather the different wood types. I'd love to hear any comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and see you again next time. Bye!